Hey little girl, where you running to? Sun's going down, what you gonna do? Nobody knows what you're going through.
It's the first time I tried drugs, first time I partied,
there.
first time I did a bunch of stuff was there in Homer. And it was because we're unsupervised and I could get away with it. And it later on caused some trouble in my life. A lot of ways Homer wasn't a good place for me. I'm not trying to make Homer sound horrible, but it can be a difficult place to grow up in, you know, for a kid. Getting around drinking and drugs and partying too much, you know. There was a lot of drugs going on, a lot of heroin, cocaine, crack, and meth, and I would have never seen or been around any of that stuff except down there, you know. And then at the same time, it's this magical place too, you know what I mean? You meet the wrong person there, you're screwed. Had enough of that, you know. And then my mom and Jamar going to jail, and yeah, I mean, I feel like Jamar, ever since, you know, that situation down there, he's been locked up pretty much ever since, on and on and on and on. He shouldn't have been down there at 17, 18 years old around the drugs.
It wasn't easy. It was beautiful. I was a younger kid and it was beautiful, but it was also like I could feel the darkness out around. And then for me, it's more like the bigger thing that I focused on is like there was more of this whole open. Because there was this whole open sexuality thing where it was okay with everybody that people were sleeping with each other's wives, and
Yeah.
and that was just sort of a norm. And so when my mom started sleeping with Ian and Gordon's dad, then he fell in love with her,
Yeah.
and he wanted to come take her away, and he did. At the time, it was okay, but
Yeah.
I think it hurts people a lot to realize that the choices that you make, even though they were noble in certain ways, because where our family came from was so conservative in the times. Like it was the 50s and everything was freaking repressed, right? The whole country was repressed.
Yeah.
And our parents were like, just fucking throwing those chains off. And I think they had to throw so much off
Yeah.
that they couldn't hold on to anything. And so like as kids, we were
Yeah.
in the wake of that.
I really didn't understand what was going on. I was really young, you know. But I knew it wasn't good.
Growing up, all the hippies lived in Homer and they were made fun of. And all the newcomers went to Homer. And the newcomers were a huge influx of people that came from the 1970s, and a lot of them came from, like your family, from Massachusetts, East Coast, and with that brought these ideals of freedom and love, and so they were coming into a community that was established with hard work and pioneer ideals and God and country. And so there is a divide there, you know, with strong pioneer like Christians coming and establishing territory in a native village. You know, there's a divide there. So the East Enders had a reputation for sure. And it had to do with slippery ethics or more than one partner that might not be your husband or wife. You know, it seemed dangerous. I had to pick him up at the airport. When I got to the airport, this native man got on the back of the Honda and he put his arms around me and he said, "Tanya, it's been so long." And I just went, "Oh my God." And then I went to my sister and I was like, "Who is that guy and why do I feel like this?" And then she told me, she was like, "You don't remember everything?" And then I was molested in a village.
Certain characteristics that were here, such as the hunting, the fishing, the living without a lot of regulations, a lot of rules, and all of those things were important to us. I don't know if Homer was typical in those days, but you had your church crowd, you had your bar crowd, and you had your drug crowd, depending on your drug of choice, you know. Pretty much that your crowd, there was this crowd that hung out as characters, and there was the crowd that smoked marijuana and maybe LSD, you know, was another thing that was going at that time. And then there was the church crowd. In some ways we were kind of different from the crowd that we associated with, because much of the stuff that they took seriously, we took humorously. You have people with closed minds, and they can be very easily offended by things that really should be marginal. I mean, why would they put Adam and Eve on the bar front of Alice's? I mean, what's it got to do with Alice's Champagne Palace? Except to tweet religious community, you know? They're just... Those differences in viewpoint are amplified because they're not blended in with a larger population. And so they're amplified perhaps out of proportion.
I heard people that went to church thought I was going to hell.
Some did.
And so I was sort of like, wow, well, you don't even know me. Like, I'm just this kid running through the woods enjoying life, and already somebody's got me going to hell.
People who think that way have a psychosis, and it's right to be afraid of them. It's the same thing the same reason you'd be afraid of some guy that walks into the school with an AK-47. It's reasonable to be scared. They're not sane.
The first thing we heard about it up there is that Marsh was giving away all of his money, and he had a lot of it. I said, Judy, you're going to come up and meet Marsh, right? So we went up there and opened up the door and walked in, and Marsh was buck naked. And there was pot all over the floor and rolling papers and, you know, roaches and shit. And there was like 15 hippies in various states. And then I start picking up the vibe that these people think Marsh is some kind of a advanced soul, a guru. And there was an inmates, Tom Coffey and Bob Lee. These guys were hardcore. These guys would cut you. These guys would shoot your ass. And they showed up, and when they got wind of that free money up there, Tom Coffey wasn't the only person who ran up there and grabbed the money. And a lot of them are respectable Homer citizen type people who would be ashamed if people knew. And that's when Betsy showed up. Marsh decided that Betsy was a goddess and that he was going to possess her. I was on the gas station on Pioneer Avenue one time when Betsy drove in to get gas, and Marsh jumped out of his car and went over and grabbed hold of the windowsill and started begging her to come live with him and that he loved her and he worshiped her and everything.
Feel it. I can see Marsh.
And I never will really understand that, but they had something. I'm sorry, buddy. Go ahead. I can start too anytime.
When people did change partners, or had other partners. All this free love concept. The concept at that time was that everything was okay. We were writing the rules for our lives and ignoring stuff that we ignored at our peril.
It's hard to know what really happens historically and how much of it is from what people tell you. And then that becomes your own reality. My reality is I don't remember Marsh and Marty ever getting into any kind of altercation like that. I don't ever have any recollection of that, but I could have just not remembered.
There was nothing here, just an old fox farmer's cabin. A tiny little stable tumbled down that they had to brace up, just enough room enough for a horse and a cow, half a dozen of chickens. I intend to have craftsmen here, craft teachers, disciplined, dedicated people. We have thousands of tons of coal on the beaches. We have good timber and fine soil. This is perfect for an experiment, possibly more than an experiment.
Outside and the wind does blow. You're walking through the falling snow. You're all alone at the end of the road, and there is no one home to help you carry the load. I want to pour your tea and hold your hand, helping you to understand that what you need, it ought to be, and a little bit of love to help you see.